Hello folks, welcome to our canal channel Jose. Today we're going to show you, give you an idea how you can do the replacement on the front shocks on a 1954 to 1965 Volkswagen Beetle or a 1956 to 1965 Karmann Ghia. And we're replacing the passenger side. We already did our driver side replacement. So we're going to show you that the same steps on the passenger side are done in the driver side. They're just on left and right. The shocks itself don't have sides, so if you buy one shock, it fits both sides. So we're using a KYB brand, and we're gonna show you the part number that we're using for this particular car or frame. With that said, let's jump right into it. So now the first thing you gotta do is you gotta lift your car and put a jack stand on it, so that way you can have your weight of the car rest onto the jack stand, and that way it allows you to remove the tire on the side that you're working on. So for example, on our side, we're working on the passenger side, and also we have turn or steering thirds if we were gonna make a left, because the caliper and all this is away from the shock or away from the shock. So we're gonna be replacing the passenger side, and what you do to one side, you do to the other side, but the shock fits both sides. So as you're looking at the passenger side, right here is a bolt, 70 millimeters, that we need to remove. And then down here is a 70 millimeter nut that we have to remove as well to get the shock out here. Like we mentioned, the part number for this KYB for this bug is 343144. That's the part number that we're using. So up here is a 70 millimeter bolt that goes through the shock ear, and in the bottom there's a nut, and then the shock is right into the suspension. So on the top it goes through, and on the bottom the shock slides into the suspension. So it sits like this. So now that you have loosened it, leave a couple threads in there, and then we're gonna go down and take the nut from below off. So now that we took the 70 millimeter nut from the lower part of the suspension, now we can take off completely this bolt off, so we can get the shock to slide out innerwise from the suspension on the lower part. So now we haven't compressed this old shock that we took out, and we're gonna compare it to the new one. So we're gonna compress this one and then take that band off of this and compress it and see how both react. So as you can see, the old one is just staying there, doesn't even move. So now it's time for a new one. So we're replacing it. Both sides have ears. That's the main thing. So now we put this brand new one in. So now one thing that you want to do is to install this the right way, is that this is how to find out the lower and upper part. Well, you got a bigger cylinder that takes the smaller cylinder in or out. That's the upper part, and the reason for that being is that if any water hits here or dust, it just runs off and it keeps going down and it drops down to the ground. So if you put it up the opposite way, everything's gonna go in here, and it's gonna actually ruin your shock. So this is the wrong way to do it. You gotta flip it and put it this way. This is the right way to do it. You want the bigger cylinder that takes the smaller cylinder in to be up. This needs to be like this. Now that we took our old shock out, we grab our new shock and we start installing it. So now we install the bottom piece first. We put our washer and our nut in the bottom piece. So now for the upper one, we're gonna have to push our piston down. We're gonna feed or bolt through this to the shock, and then we're gonna line it up on this structure and thread it in so we can tighten it, so we can get our shock structure bolt onto the top piece. What I did, I added some WD-40 to those threads so the bolt will thread in easier. so now we have replaced our both shocks, driver and passenger side, and like we said, it's a 17 millimeter bolt on the top, 17 millimeter nut in the bottom, and we replaced both sides, driver and passenger side. And there's the old shocks. This one we have to extend it ourselves, otherwise it will be like that. So these were not even doing anything in there, they were just paperweights at this point. So we have replaced it, and we just got to put our wheel back on and lower our car. And well, folks, hopefully this video is useful and helpful how to replace the front shocks on a 1954 to 1965 Volkswagen Beetle or a 1956 to 1965 Karmann Ghia. And we're using KYB brands. We replaced both driver and passenger side, and the same shock fits both sides. And the part number that we're using is a 343144, the KYB shock. And what you do to one side, you do to the other side. Both the same shock fits both sides, like we said. So all you need is a 17 millimeter socket. There's a bolt on the top and a nut in the bottom. And pretty simple. You can do this. Just gotta remove the tire. So with that said, folks, for our friends who are watching our video, haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like our video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in el canal del Chano Jose.